Good evening. To Dr. Francis Severin, Deputy Principal, University of the West Indies Open Campus, Mrs. Angela Patterson, President of the New Kingston Lion Club, distinguished presenters, Mrs. Cecile Minot, Dr. Kevin White, Dr. Joan Lamley, and Mrs. Lisa Sterling Simpson, other special guests from the Open Campus Leadership Team, District Governor Maureen Graham, distinguished Lions, my fellow Lions and Leos, ladies and gentlemen, who are viewing our live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, good evening and welcome. I'm Levine Griffiths, head of Jamaica Eastern Region and member of the Lions Club of New Kingston, and I will be your moderator for this evening. This is the second of 3 webinars on the theme, The Scoop on COVID-19. Our first webinar was on March 18, where we look on the topic COVID-19 and your health. And you can view that still on YouTube. So our topic for this evening is managing your mental well-being during COVID-19. And the final webinar in the three webinar series will be on April 22nd with the topic coping in the financial crisis caused by COVID-19. These webinars are hosted jointly by the University of the West Indies Open Campus and the Lions Club of New Kingston, with the intention of providing well-needed information on COVID-19. What more for a winning team? The prestigious higher education institution, that is the University of the West Indies, joining forces with an outstanding community-based organization such as the Lions Club. So before we begin the presentations, I am pleased to ask Dr. Francis Severin, the Deputy Principal of the University of the West Indies Open Campus, to bring greetings.
Thank you very much, Chair, for the warm welcome. And please allow me, Chair, to follow the protocol that you have so efficiently established so that I don't delay the proceedings unnecessarily, but a hearty good night to each and every one of you. To begin with, I wish to express my thanks to the University of the West Indies Open Campus Jamaica Eastern and the Lions Club of New Kingston for inviting me to be a part of the second installment of the Scoop on COVID-19 webinar series. The exciting topic this evening is maintaining your mental well-being during COVID-19. I am absolutely sure that my colleague, Ms. Levine Griffiths, did not invite me to deliver opening remarks because of the particular topic, but in spite of the topic. In short, I reckon that the subject and my delivering opening remarks are merely coincidence. Having established the foregoing, I wish to commend the UWI Open Campus and the Lions Club of New Kingston for mounting these series of webinars. I was fortunate to have been at the first webinar on March 18, 2021, entitled COVID-19 and Your Health. I emerged from the webinar feeling that I understood the health implications of COVID-19 a lot better than I did hitherto. Having had that educational experience, I look forward with alacrity to learning some more about another angle of COVID-19, that is, its concomitant mental health concerns and complications that we often do not think about, especially because the physical or corporeal mortality and morbidity issues tend to fully preoccupy us. I would like to offer a special, warm, and sincere welcome to our distinguished panelists. I look forward to hearing their reflections, whether from a personal or professional outlook. A warm welcome also to our audience, wherever you are around the Caribbean and the world. You are the fundamental reason for these webinar series. You make it worthwhile and meaningful. And therefore, we hope you will enjoy and learn from the information that is shared with you tonight. I feel very proud of not only the fact that the Open Campus and its various countrysides have been mounting such virtual events. After all, we have continually been engaged with our communities beyond the walls of the Academy. What strikes me is the frequency, quality, and relevance of these events, especially during the agony of COVID-19. These very events, coming to several of us while on lockdown or pause, have perhaps done so much to assuage the mental strain that we are all under from COVID-19 fatigue. I therefore especially commend Ms. Griffiths and the Open Campus Jamaica Eastern and the Lions Club of New Kingston. Colleagues, these insidious, less tangible, and at first blush, less important mental health issues are omnipresent. It is when we neglect or fail to notice them and not address them promptly that bedlam and pandemonium become the denouement. Ignoring them, colleagues, will not mean that they simply disappear. I imagine we will hear from our experts tonight that what is particularly problematic is that the effects are imponderable, and we have not yet begun to wrap our minds around the possible long-term consequences on a wide cross-section of our populations. I am proud that our principal, Dr. Longsworth, and the leadership team of the Open Campus have always insisted and have put programs in place to ensure that the mental well-being and wellness of our staff and our students are paramount, particularly at this time. In this regard, I beg leave to recognize and applaud my own colleague, Mrs. Cecile Minot, Director, Consortium for Social Development and Research, CSDR, and others like Mrs. Deborah Dalrymple, who have selflessly given of their time and mental and physical energies to keep many of us on an even keel. Ladies and gentlemen, as I pondered what I would say to you tonight, it struck me as I read from a book entitled Mindful Leadership by Maria Gonzalez, that uncertainty, change, ambiguity, vagueness, and generally a sense of insecurity are the variables which frighten and scare us. Morbidity and mortality can bring on such sensibilities, I imagine. Gonzalez, 2012, points out the following. The tendency for people is to want to know, to have answers for everything. We seek closure because that makes us comfortable. If you really think about it, you'll see how little we actually control or know for certain. The drive to know and to have answers to everything is simply the result of a desire for control and our discomfort with not knowing. She proceeds to allay our feelings by stating, and I quote, "Part of mindfulness is to become comfortable with not knowing or don't know. You need to practice becoming comfortable with a mind that doesn't have all the answers. This will help you to widen the gap between stimulus and response. And you will find that in that gap, many answers will surface," unquote. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not propose to go much further, lest I lose my way in attempting to go beyond my field of competence and comfort. I am, however, excited to hand you over to those who at least have most of the answers on tonight's subject, maintaining your mental well-being. Before ending, however, colleagues, and perhaps another need for intervention in terms of mental well-being, I ask you to remember our brothers and sisters in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, who, as you all know, are going through a difficult time, to state this mildly, with the increased volcanic activity and the order for evacuation. We pray for their strength and courage, especially at a time when COVID-19 makes the logistics of evacuation a nightmare. I wish you an enjoyable night. Thank you for inviting me. A warm welcome to all. Chair, over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Selfrin. And you mentioned one word, well, a term that is now being used, COVID-19 fatigue. and it comes on with this great deal of isolation that we find ourselves in. And as a people who is used to our freedom, it becomes very challenging. And so I thank you for those wonderful words as you set the pace and tone for our discussion. But before we continue, certainly I must pause to welcome Mrs. Angela Patterson, President of the Lions Club of New Kingston, and ask for her greetings. Over to you, President Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Our esteemed presenters, Mrs. Cecile Minot, Dr. Kevin White, Dr. Joan Lamley, and Mrs. Lisa Shirley Simpson, leadership of the UWI Mona campus, Mona Open Campus, leadership of the Lions movement, especially the Lions Club of New Kingston, ladies and gentlemen in Jamaica and across the Caribbean, good evening to you all. I am extremely pleased to be giving this greeting this evening, as I am so proud of the collaboration which has brought into being this three-part series of webinars about this pandemic, which has so revolutionized all behaviors across the world. This collaboration, which involves two major international organizations, the UWI through its Open Campus arm and the Lions Club International through its New Kingston branch, is a great reflection of Steve Jobs saying that, quote, "Great things are never done by one person. They are done by a team of people." Indeed, the work of both these organizations has helped many in their various constituencies to cope with the effects of the pandemic. This is part 2 of a 3-part series of webinars, which will explore the various different aspects of the COVID-19 virus. In part 1, we heard of the medicinal facts about the virus, what it is, how it spreads, what are the developments happening across the world, and how to treat the effects of the virus. We heard about the work being done by the university in the areas of research and communication. Today, we will explore another area, which is the effect of the virus on mental health. We have had lockdowns, quarantines, no funerals, no hugging, physical distancing. As Caribbean people, these directives are alien to us. What has happened? How do we cope? What are the immediate and long-term effects of these challenges? The aim of the partners in putting on these webinars is to fulfill what has been a crying need of the public, the need for credible information and to be able to access qualified persons to ask the questions and receive responses. It is my hope that the information which will be shared this evening will fill the gaps, and the opportunity to ask questions of these experts will enable better understanding of the issues about how to cope during these trying times. The Lions movement, operating under its motto, "We Serve," comprises over 1.2 million lions across the world in 1,200 countries. In the Caribbean, this includes over 90,000 lions in nearly 100 clubs. This series of webinars adds to our arsenal of service by the provision of information. The Lions Club of New Kingston and indeed Lions Club International are proud of the outcomes of this partnership with the UWI Open Campus. I hope, therefore, that this will be the start of other collaborations, right, Levine? where credible information is shared that will redound to the benefit of all our publics across the region and eventually the world. Enjoy the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, President Patterson. And most certainly, we look forward for more collaborations as we look to serve the peoples of the Caribbean. And so, Dr. Severin and Mrs. Patterson has set the tone for us to move forward with our presentation. And then before we begin, just a short notice, little notice, that we know that persons have, after hearing each presentation, will have some questions to ask. So I ask that you put those questions in the chat. At the end of all our presentations, we will open up for question and answers, and which someone from each social media platform will be given the opportunity to read out those questions for our panelists. So, without further lingering, we will move straight into the presentation. And our first presenter is Dr. Kevin White. Dr. White is the Assistant Force Chaplain of the JCF Area 4. He is also a Minister of Religion, a Justice of the Peace, Marriage Counselor, and Certified Mediator. He will be sharing on the emotional challenges experienced by frontline workers caused by COVID-19 pandemic and provide some support in terms of addressing coping that is required at this time for our frontline workers. So without any further delay, welcome and over to you, Dr. White.
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator and Director, Head of the Open Campus of the Kingston Eastern Region, rather. Also want to recognize Dr. Francis Severin, who is Deputy Principal of UWI Open Campus. Mrs. Angela Patterson, President of the Lions Club of New Kingston. My fellow presenters, who I am sure are distinguished in their own rights. I am elated and peacock proud and honeymoon happy to have been asked to join with you in this conversation. It is my desired hope that out of our conversation this evening, we would together offer some measure of coping skills to persons who have to face this unseen enemy that have disturbed our lives, or what we know as normal way of living. I must say, however, as a disclaimer, that what I have to say is neither novel nor is it exhaustive. And so together, as you frame your questions and as we have conversation together, we will assist each other as we, as I said before, face this unseen enemy that is with us and seem to going to be with us for some time. And so I am going to be talking about mental well-being and coping during COVID-19. And Madam Moderator, you will tell me when my time would have elapsed. All right. So here we go. These are unprecedented times, and we need to work extra hard to manage our emotions well. We expect to have a lot of mixed feelings. And naturally, we feel anxiety and maybe waves of panic, particularly when seeing new headlines. How do we adapt to this new norm? Our anxiety is helping us to cope, bond together from a physical distance and slow the spread of the virus. So our anxiety, while uncomfortable, is a good thing right now. And I want to underscore that it's a good thing, especially if we manage our emotions well. At the same time, we must effortfully prevent panic contagion from taking over us. We must create periods when we can be screen free and calm, engaging our attention in a normal and daily activities. We must seize opportunities to share lightness and humor because laughter right now is a relief for all of us. The Bible says laughter does medicine. It's like medicine to the bones. So we must find time for laughter and humor. We can also find moments of hope and resilience all around us despite the uncertainty. What are some of the coping strategies that we can employ as we face these unprecedented times and these uncertain moments? It may be helpful, one, for you to make a list of what you can and cannot control right now. What am I saying? We need to expend our energies on things that we can change, and we need to leave those things that we cannot change. In the next slide, you will see a guide that will suggest radical acceptance of the situations we cannot control and focus on what we can do. All right. So focus on things that you can control. Let me just make mention of the things that you cannot control. You cannot control if others follow the rules of social distancing. You cannot control the action of others. You cannot predict what will happen. Other people's motives. You cannot control the amount of toilet paper in the store, etc. But the things you can control, and so I want to focus on these things. You can control your attitude. So you ought to have a positive attitude. How we follow the Center of Disease Control recommendations and the recommendations coming out from the World Health Organization, also locally from our own Ministry of Health and Wellness. We ought to follow those things. We can control our own social distancing. You can limit your social media. You can be kind and graceful to somebody else, and you can find fun in things to do at home. So what I am here saying is that we ought to expend our energies on those things that we can control and try not to waste precious times on things that we cannot control. Let me run to some practical tips for everyone. Now, stay physically safe from the virus. In this case, the biggest safety behaviors, physical distancing and washing, which decrease transmission of COVID-19 virus, also an integral part of anxiety management. Stay at home when you can. When outside the home, wash your hands thoroughly and frequently. We have been hearing these things since the advent of COVID-19, but they say that we ought to repeat it until we get it. Some more practical tips for everyone. Limit media to reduce anxiety. And by now, you have heard this recommendation that there is research behind it. Watching or scrolling through the media makes us even more anxious. As a matter of fact, Dr. Irvin's Rox Silver and others says that an excess of news and visual images about a traumatic event can create symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder and poor health years later. So we need to filter those things that we take in of social media. Try to limit COVID-19 media exposure to no more than twice a day. Example, checking for updates in the morning and before dinner. Try to avoid reading about COVID-19 before bedtime. Take a vow to not forward and thus propagate alarming headlines to friends and family. Stay far from the propaganda, because the media often creates an exaggerated expression of global panic. And the reality emerging from research data in Seattle, Washington, an epicenter of the outbreak in the US, is that most people are dealing with the virus very well and rising up to help others. So instead of creating euphoria and propaganda, let us have a positive attitude. Let us focus on some more practical tips for everyone. Get and provide warm, comforting social support by video, phone, or text. And this is critical. Taking time to share your feelings and to listen and support others will go a long way. Talking with others who have our best interests at heart makes us feel safe. Use your phone, video, text, or email. Unfortunately, these new highways of social contact are unlimited resources to us. More than just providing social support about current crisis, it is a good idea to use use these connections to talk about the things you normally would. Host your book club online, for example, which can create feelings of connectedness. Free apps helps us to stay connected during the coronavirus. Host a dinner using FaceTime or Zoom so you can talk while you eat and talk about some positive things, not just this crisis. Loving and caring for our pets can be phenomenal stress reduction for us too. So use up and tap into our creative energies. This is something that I find interesting. Social distancing is actually a misnomer. It is actually physical distancing while we work hard to stay socially connected. Let us switch to that phrase. What we want is to be physically distant, but also to grow socially connected. Find ways to show kindness, patience, and compassion. Be extra kind, especially to yourself. And this is a hard time for everyone. Humans across the world are sharing this experience with you. We're all in this thing together, for we may all emerge with a renewed appreciation for our interconnectedness, and helping others in need is both critical to get through this well and also creates more purpose to our days and well-being. Routine and ritual are restorative to us. Our brain wants predictable activity so we can relax our vigilant nervous system. Go to bed early, go outside each day to be active, and remember that our activities, thoughts, and mood are closely linked. If you want to change your mood, change your activities, and change your thoughts. Work well enough from home. Working from home may be new to you and can have its own challenges, especially in a small home with children. Don't expect to have the same type of productivity as usual. We are all distracted and needing to cope with different daily life now while helping others. Reduce your goals for a typical work day that is not urgent. If possible, here are some recommendations on how to stay focused and productive during the week hours. So confine your workspace to a specific clear area in your home. So your job doesn't intrude on your personal needs. Use the same space regularly to work. This will focus your mind and increase your productivity. Control sound. Use noise canceling headphones or earbuds, or use music or fans to create white noise so you can have a sense of peace. End the workday with a clear boundary. Put away electronic devices and work tools at the end of your workday and set clear hours in the day for work. Having a morning or evening check-in with a colleague or supervisor to reduce social isolation and provide structure to your day. Use video communications when you can. Seeing faces provide more social connection and information than just talking. All right, this brings me to a very important point. And this is called now cognitive and somatic coping. Now, our thoughts shape our physiological stress responses. And acute short-term stress is not necessarily bad for us. And that's why we can turn the negatives of COVID into positive coping mechanism. And these can be good. We can approach stressors with a positive mental view that we can cope well, that we have the resources. We can also view the physical stress response as one that helps us perform better, such as increasing oxygen to the brain. These are both types of cognitive reappraisal, according to University of California professor Wendy Mendez. She has shown that teaching students a positive way to view acute stress led to better performance on their tests. That is very interesting. Be realistic and fact-based. Since COVID-19 pandemic will likely go on for months, we need to make sure we are creating breaks and coping well with the stressful events that arise each day. It's easy to think about the worst outcomes, which are catastrophic, but that creates unnecessary stress, arousal, and suffering. Reduce stress arousal through breath practices. Practice that manage stress reactions in moment are critical, particularly for frontline providers. Taking time out during the day frequently to self-regulate can be very helpful. Find a breathing technique that works for calming you. Now, the most basic thing to know is that taking a longer exhale than inhale can help calm your body. Easy techniques include slow diaphragmatic belly breathing versus chest breathing. It is said to be 2 times for an exhale. That is, inhale to the count of 4, exhale to the count of 8. And so you have a 4, 7, 8 count breathing, and a common yogic alternate nostril breathing will help you to cope. That is just a little health practice there for you. You see, friends, what we are facing now in the midst of this pandemic is acute traumatic stress. In other words, COVID-19 is a direct threat to our life and to the lives of others we know. We are all either vicariously witnessing trauma through media or through supporting others, or directly experiencing trauma by becoming ill. This is not a good time to die. And what I have experienced just on Monday, I lost one of my officers. He went in the hospital on Sunday evening. He had the COVID complications, and by Monday, he is dead. Now, that has left a family devastated. They were not able to see him. They were not able to visit him. He practically died alone. And this is the things that frontline workers have to face. They either are witnessing persons being broken because of this pandemic, or they themselves are experiencing illness from the midst of this pandemic. It is important that we learn how to cope. Coping with trauma and grief. These serious reactions are more likely to occur in people with a history of trauma, especially childhood trauma, but we can take steps to protect ourselves and minimize the negative consequences and be resilient. And healing from trauma is something that happens best in the context of supportive relationships. Coming down now, we may also be experiencing communal sense of grief at the loss of how things were, and anticipatory grief at the threat of loss of life. Another common feeling is moral distress and outrage, expressions of anger, and at witnessing injustice, poor management of our national crisis. Also, some providers may be experiencing moral injury by witnessing or anticipating or being forced to take part in moral dilemmas created by trying to save people with limited resources. It is essential that we learn how to cope in the midst of these trauma and grief. For coping with all of these issues, emphasize trauma-informed strategies. Use strategies to reduce stress throughout the day, including statements that support a resilient mindset. Compassion, self-compassion, positive challenge, appraisal, as well as a mind-body exercise that reduce stress reaction. Recognize and reduce traumatic reactions. Traumatic stress is different from typical life stress. It can lead to avoidance and emotional numbness and shame, and how to manage it is important to help patients, providers, and staff feel safe. Encouraging the early seeking of care is very, very crucial. Understand organizational and community perspective. It is helpful to realize that in response to large-scale disasters and traumatic events, solutions must be communal and not just individual, like one-on-one therapy. So we have to be communal. Communal perspective provides outlets such as community peer support, groups, ritual, art expression, and self-environments. And trauma-informed practices and principles help make people feel safe and thus more regulated. Continuing with coping with trauma and grief, it includes prioritizing relationships as social support and connection can buffer stress responses, creating physical safety, and safe environment decreases the stress response and ensure rational thinking, judgment, and intentional control can occur, and emotional safety to help staff understand what to expect. Then finally, I will end with a biblical encouragement, because not even the words of the greatest poet can diminish the trauma that we are facing. But as a man who believes in a God who sits high and looks low, I believe that God can take this nightmare of an event and turn it into a midday fiesta. While we learn to cope, we can turn to God, who is able to take that which we have committed against that day. And so I share with you Isaiah 40 verses 28 through 31. Hast thou not known, hast thou not heard, that the everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, fainteth not, neither is weary. There is no searching of his understanding. He giveth power to the faint, and to them that have no might, he increaseth strength. Even the youth shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Friends, viewers, while COVID-19 has changed the way we live and have exposed us to a new norm, we can use even COVID-19, finding creative ways, finding new bouts of coping mechanisms to weather this uncertain storm. May we continue to have a positive attitude, for a positive attitude determines our altitude. Let us be focused, let us be positive, knowing that with each negative, we can turn it around and make it into something whereby we can cope. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your listening here. And thank you for the opportunity to share in the conversation. God bless you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. White, for the presentation, particularly the note about being physically distanced and not social distancing. So thank you very much. We go straight into another presenter, Dr. Joan Lamley. Dr. Lamley is a natural health consultant who specializes in lifestyle diseases with emphasis on women's health. She believes that the human body has a natural ability to heal itself if given the right conditions. So this evening, she will be sharing on how to build our body's immunity to withstand the effect of COVID-19. Over to you, Dr. Lamley.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I stand in agreement with my esteemed colleague, Dr. Kevin White, in observing all protocols. I would also like to register my appreciation to be able to take part in this very timely and groundbreaking presentations designed to provide a mechanism for coping during this very challenging and abnormal state of living and existing. Okay, so this evening it is with humility that I want to share and join my voice in helping to provide some helpful guidelines to help us to cope with this our situation. All right. It has been my observation since last March, when we had the shutdown, that persons have been getting sicker, younger, and the nature of the sickness tend to be running along the same line. So, you know, curiously, I tried to see what is going on, because I recognize that more persons are coming down with high blood pressure, diabetes, arthritis. Circulation problem is affecting a lot of persons. All right. And therefore, I recognize that in communicating with them, you realize that they are afraid. Persons are afraid, they are stressful, they are fearful. The uncertainty of it all is leading to sickness. Why? Because when the body is in a state of agitation, then it cannot function naturally. All right. And therefore, I'm going to look a little of some of the things that we can do to help ourselves cope during this difficult time. All right, your health is important. Taking charge can mean the difference between the prevention of diseases and the treatment. All right, taking charge of your health. This is what I want us to look at. I want us to move away from that idea of helplessness, which tend to be affecting a lot of persons. It's like we are sitting, waiting, wondering what is going to happen. Am I going to be the one who will be sick next? Is it coming for me? Is there a boogeyman there? What is happening? It's affecting persons, and it is leading to sickness because of that sense of helplessness that's going on. If a person is in a, say, in a pit, in a hole, and you know there's a rope there that you can use to get yourself out, you will not be as fearful as a man who is in there and see no way of getting out. That will bring more trauma. So this evening, I want to help to lower that rope into the hole so that, you know, we can get out. All right. No, I start with this. I have to jump right into this based on the time. No, one of the first things you're going to do to take care of your health, I call it love your liver. No, this organ in the human body is basically the workhorse of your body. It does absolutely everything possible to ensure that you are kept well. The liver does over 500 functions in the human body. And at any given time, even us sitting here in one position, the liver might be doing maybe about 200 functions. All right, so it is a workhorse. It takes the toxin that we will put in our system, and it will break it down in a way that the body is able to cope with it so that we do not die instantly. But especially know that you are inside. Many times we tend to be snacking, we tend to be eating things that are not healthy, we tend to be making decisions more into comfort food instead of those that will help to make us healthier. All right. And the liver, if we put too much stress on it, then it will not be in a position to help us with coping with diseases. Our immune system will become compromised. All right. So what are some of the best food you want to take for your liver? Some of the best thing that you can do for your liver are those foods that are rich in the B vitamins, vitamin C's, and your trace minerals. These are what the liver loves. And in case you can't remember all of that mouthful, just bear in mind that your liver loves anything that is bitter and anything that is sour. It is the simplest way to put it. And in that way, the liver has a way of using that now to cleanse itself and boost your immune system. All right. So what are we talking about? We are looking at those foods that include a lot of vegetables, such as your celery, your spinach, cucumbers, your romaine lettuce. Your romaine lettuce would be the longer ones, not the round one, the iceberg. All right. And you steam your vegetables from the cruciferous family. So like your broccoli and your cauliflower, these wonderful things. All right. It is also advisable for those who are not able to get enough nutrients in their system. You can do some of the juices, all right, as this will help you to ensure that you are getting adequate nourishment. And your citrus, as I said, it loves sour. So if you taste an orange and you say, oh, I'm not eating this, it is too sour, go eat that orange. Your liver will be happy for it because it's actually helping to detox that liver. So your citrus fruit, it does not mean only your sweet orange. We are talking about your orange, your grapefruits. We are talking about your limes. We are talking about your lemons, all of this. And also your berries. So your blackberries, your blueberries, your strawberries, your raspberries, and of course, your cranberries. Now, cranberries tend to be a lot more tart, but actually it is very good for helping to cleanse your system. And for those who are not having health stomach problem, it is good that in the morning, if you could take a half of a lemon in a glass of warm water, then this is also very good for flushing the body and ensuring that your liver is taken care of. I start with this specifically because I want us to move from that position of helplessness and give ourselves something, activities that we can do to help us cope during this time. Okay, so I'm looking at some of the elements that I want to ensure is in our diet, because if we are not having enjoying physical health, we are also going to be affected mentally. All right, when your foot is hurting, your tummy is hurting, your head is hurting, when all of this is hurting, then it leads more to depression and even more fearfulness, because guess what? We are going to be thinking or wondering, oh my goodness, I wonder if this is what is happening to me. I wonder if it's COVID that I'm having now. And more fear will come upon us. But there are steps that we are taking that can help us now to put ourselves in a position where we can be taken care of. Not helplessly sitting by, but become active in your safety or in your health patterns. All right. So zinc is one of those elements that is desperately needed by the human body. Zinc is found in cells throughout the body. It is needed for the body's defense, that is your immune system, to properly work. It plays a role in your cell division, your cell growth, your wound healing, and the breakdown of carbohydrates. Zinc is also needed for the senses of smell and taste. Now, do you recognize that during this time, when persons are affected by COVID, that one of the things that go is their taste, all right? Their sense of taste or smell, all right? So zinc has a very crucial role to play in this. Zinc is a vital mineral that your body uses in countless ways. In fact, zinc is the second most abundant trace mineral in your body after iron, and is present in every cell. Isn't that amazing? Zinc is necessary for the activity of over 300 enzymes that aid in your metabolism, your digestion, your nerve function, and many other processes. As a matter of fact, many persons who are having mental issues, they are affected by low zinc level in the body. Deficiency of zinc can lead to mental instability. In addition, it is critical for the development and function of your immune system. So what we're saying is that this is one mineral that you want to ensure is in your diet. So I know the next question is, how do I get it? All right, so we will look at that. What are some of the foods that are in zinc? Now, include the high protein in your diet, right? So lean meats, poultry, eggs, seafood, beans, peas, lentils, nuts, and your seeds, your soy products, oysters, red meat, poultry are excellent source of zinc. So are baked beans, your chickpeas, and your nuts, such as your cashews and your almonds. These are also rich in zinc. But the best sources I want to mention, even though the others are good, you have to be concerned about the cholesterol levels that are in some of these things. So you don't want to be taking them, say, well, I'm taking this to get zinc, while at the same time, it is leading to too much fat. So you can have fatty liver disease, or you can have heightened cholesterol, or you can end up with arthritis. So move away mostly from the meat and go to the seeds and the beans and the nuts and the grains. So your peas, beans, your lentils, your nuts, your seeds, your baked beans, your chickpeas, all of these, pumpkin seeds, excellent, especially for our men. Men should be eating pumpkin seed. A word to the wise, I think, is sufficient. All right, and your almonds, these are very excellent source of ensuring that your zinc level remain intact, because this is the time when we are becoming depleted because of the situation in which we find ourselves. Okay, so we look at zinc. The next one we want to look at is magnesium in the human body. Magnesium is a nutrient that the body needs to stay healthy. Magnesium is important for many processes in the body, including regulating your muscles and nerve function, your blood sugar level, your blood pressure, and making your protein, your bone, and ensuring that you have good DNA structure going on. Magnesium is the fourth most abundant mineral in your body. It's involved in over 600 reactions, from making DNA to making your muscle contract. Despite its importance, up to 68% of American, I'm sorry, I did not have one to say Jamaican adults. I did not have the statistics, but we look at the American situation, and you know, our diet tend to be more around the American lifestyle. So it gives us a very good guide. All right. We don't meet the requirement for the magnesium. All right. Where do we get these things? Magnesium in our simple, ordinary little foods around us. So we have our avocados. In Jamaica, we call it our pears. The leafy green vegetables, your nuts, your legumes, your seeds, all right, your almonds, your ripe bananas. So there we go with the sweetness. It's right there, rich in magnesium, your peanuts. And I must emphasize the whole grains. No, to a large extent, we tend to prefer white bread, white flour, white rice, white sugar. We tend to like the things when they are whiter. Yet these become devoid of nutrients. All right, so it's better for us to have the whole wheat, your oats, your barley, your quinoa, your buckwheat, those things that are packed with nutrients, so that we can get the kind of vitamins and minerals that we need. So we look at zinc, we look at magnesium. I want to take us to vitamin D. No, I will tell you this. During this time, if there's something that you must be getting, it is vitamin D. Where does this come from? The sunlight. We know we might be locked down, but we are not locked out. For many of us, we can open our doors and we can go outside and take sunlight, because vitamin D is crucial for the maintenance of our health. Your bones, your teeth, your immune system, your brain, your nervous system. It regulates the amount of insulin in your body. It supports your diabetes management. It supports your lung function and your cardiovascular health. It is also important in preventing us from having certain kind of cancer. So all, if not all, most of our cells need vitamin D. Go outside and get some sun. And the darker complexion persons like us, it would be better for us to go anywhere between 10 and 2 o'clock. That will do us very well. All right. What are some of the other steps that we can take? So we look at those minerals that are needed in the body. There are other things that you can do. Because we're inside most time, we tend to watch TV or play games and stay up late. Please go to bed early. Get enough sleep. Sleep should be a top priority. The average adult needs 7 to 8 hours of sleep each night. Sleep deficiency increases your risk of heart disease, diabetes, obesity, cancer, depression. And depression is going on with us right now. Without the sleep you need, all efforts to take charge of your health lose some of their effectiveness. That's because sleep is what helps you to recover from your exercise. It will help you to think clearly, and it will help you to manage stress. Sleep deprivation can undo all of your hard work with your diet and your exercise, because a tired body can overproduce insulin and ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone, let you want to eat more. So set aside enough time or work on relaxing so you can get some good solid Z's in the night. Very important for us to sleep. And I also must mention that importantly, in the day when you get your sunlight, there's a very wonderful enzyme that is produced by the human body. And this is called serotonin. Now, serotonin is your feel-good medication. It is like a drug. It keep you happy, keep you upbeat, it can make you feel positive. And guess what? When the night comes, then this serotonin is now converted into melatonin. And melatonin is what gives you that relaxation so that you can sleep. Very important. Take charge of your health by choosing a healthy lifestyle. We don't have to become fearful. We can make ourselves active. Eating a healthy diet and getting regular exercise can help you keep your weight, your blood sugar level, your blood pressure, and your cholesterol level in a healthy range. It is important to talk to your doctor about what diet and level of activities are best for you. Focus on eating a variety of fruits, your vegetables, your lean or low-fat protein sources, while limited added sugar. Now is not the time for us to be putting a lot of sugar and sweetness into our system, as this will lower our immune system. Also, look at your sodium intake. Don't put a lot of salt in your diet, and move away from fried food. All right, this is not recommended for us at this time. The recommended daily activity guideline is that we take at least 30 minutes of exercise 5 days a week, and put some muscle strengthening activities into your day, even 2 times a week. All right. Now, here are 7 things that we can do for ourselves to ensure that we take charge of our health and mentally fit so that we can cope during this time. Exercise, exercise, exercise. For many persons now, we are on Zoom. We are sitting right here on Zoom at this moment, and we are sitting. Some of us will be sitting for maybe 2-3 hours. No, for me, I don't do that. While I sit, I will move. I will stretch the hand. I will go over. I will stretch your body. Don't sit in the one place with your eyes just glued to the screen. Move around a little. Sometimes you're not the one talking, so you can move. After 30 minutes, get some activity going. Learn to breathe. Lift your chest, take in the breath, count off to 4, let it out, learn, and time yourself. See how, challenge yourself where that is concerned. Another thing you can do, put a bottle underneath your foot. You can fill it with water, and you can roll your feet while you're sitting, as this will increase your circulation. So exercise. Get up in the morning and exercise. If you cannot go out, let your living room be your walking track. All right, get enough shut-eye every night. Eat more fruits and vegetables. Move away from the fast food. If we put more crops in our body, we are going to wake up feeling like crap. All right, if we put garbage in, then we are going to behave as if we are garbage disposal. All right, maintain strong relationships, even though we are distant from each other physically. Socially, we can be connected to each other. So make your ties, call, talk, make relationships. Those that are at home, talk with them, play games with them. Don't lock away. One of the things that I decided to do while we're locked away, I decided we'll buy a sewing machine and we're going to learn to make skirts. Now, none of us can do it, but guess what? It gives us the opportunity to become involved, and you would not like to see what we made. Nobody can wear it. But guess what? It sends us back to the drawing board, and then we take up baking. Look what it is what is your comfort zone? What would you want to do? You can plant. Even if you don't have the land space, you can put something in a pan, in a water bottle, and watch these things grow and feel accomplished that you are taking charge. Don't underestimate the power of meditation. Don't underestimate the power. You are created by a God who loves you, and therefore increase that relationship with him. Learn to know that if you take the time and meditate, think on positive things, whatsoever things are good, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are good report, think on those things. And remember that there's a God who loves you. No, you must become the CEO of your own health. Take your health in your hand. You take charge. And as you take charge, you will reap the benefit, both in mind and body. You will see the result in very short time. God bless you. And I hope this presentation will help to make someone's day even more attractive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lamley. And of course, we were advised that the final word is to be our own CEO of our health. Thank you very much. So we move to our next presenter, Mrs. Lisa Sterling Simpson. Mrs. Simpson is a midwife at the Southeast Regional Health Authority for over 14 years. She's married with 2 grown children, and Mrs. Sterling is a COVID-19 survivor. And this evening, she has agreed to share how she maintained her mental well-being during her time in isolation. After all, we want to hear it from the horse's mouth, as they say. So we welcome Mrs. Sterling.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. Because observed, God has been good, and I just want to take the time as fast as I can, as I see the time is going, to just get in a few things. I give you a brief history. As you can look on there, you can see some medications, just starting from there, and then I'll pick up after. You see the medications, you know, when you have COVID, persons tell you all sorts of things that you have to try. Everything you can think of I used it. Everything from zinc, magnesium, DPH, Panadol, everything you could think of, I tried that. But I just give you a brief history as how it started. I was finishing up a contact investigator course. It was 2019 to 2020 to finish in February. So I was excited to go away, you know, because I wanted to get these 15 days off. So I packed my things about the 28th and took away myself. Before I went up, I had a terrible flu that I went to the doctor. And when we look back on it, when persons asked me if I didn't have any signs or symptoms, I would say no. But when I got the time now to think about it, I had a flu before leaving Jamaica. So I couldn't say for sure if it was or it wasn't. I came back on the 24th of March, and from there, I started the home quarantine, as we would say. I was scheduled to go back to work on the 25th, but because of the traveling, you know, you had to be on the 14 days quarantine. And therefore, I was on this quarantine at home. I did stay on my 14 days. Felt good, looked good to me, as according to myself, felt good, nothing was wrong. So on the 15th day, I went out to my work to sort out some work issues. But when I came back home, sad to say, my sister called to say that she was tested positive. Therefore, I said to myself, because we both traveled together, I think it would be best for me to have gotten a test. Therefore, I called and I'd informed them that she tested positive, and therefore I would also need to be tested. I had asked several times before, because of the discrimination that I was going through when I came back. You know, when you come back from overseas, persons have it to say that you have it. And I got some voice notes on my phone telling, hearing that you hear that the nurse on a banana will have it, and some things were said, and you know, we hear you know, so one way I got catch it. And at that time, I hear that police came for me, bus came for me, carry me gone, and I was just on the stairs, upstairs in my house, listening to all these voice notes. But persons would text and say, if we didn't know that you were there, and we didn't see you on the roof in the days, we would believe what we're hearing, and they would in time just encourage me. I was at home quarantine for 27 days after doing the test and then getting my results on the 15th of April last year. So last year, this time I was on home quarantine. Look at life. And when I look back and I see these things, it makes me smile. But things took a turn for the worse, one would say. I was now told to pack my bags too. Not sure where to go. There was no information as to where to go. But I packed my bags and I was taken away. Didn't know what to pack because I thought I was going to the Kingston Public Hospital. So I just packed my bag with everything I could think of. 2 suitcases rather, and a knapsack. And not knowing where to go and hold on. But because they said 14 days and by that time it will be out. I want to tell you that I was in quarantine for more than 70 days. I had 8 testings. 8 COVID testing done. So this, as you look on the screen now, you can see where I was. I was in a comfortable place, but this was what I used to wash my clothes, the waste bin. I had to use the waste bin and wash. I'd walk with everything, as you can see on the toilet bowl, shampoo, Lysol, everything. So I'd wash my clothes on these. And you can see here, a friend of mine brought cantaloupe. And I was saying to myself, let me see if I can start some form of farming while I was there. And this was it. And I put it in this dinner plate that I got my food out of. And as you can see, I had to get dirt from my window. I wasn't able to go, but thank God where I was, where you were, makes a difference in mental health. Thank God for where I was. I could find a little dirt at my window and I put them in the dirt. And I had it there watering every day. How I got over this? I keep singing, says, how I got over. I got over with singing. I got over with praying. I got over with friends, strangers. Because I went live on Facebook and started to give persons different updates on how I was doing. Persons after a while thought I had gone home. When I posted that it's now 60 days, persons were like, wow. They didn't believe that we could have it so long. But I give God thanks because I wasn't having any signs and symptoms. I keep telling them that I had this cold. So they keep giving me things for the cold. But when I was taken to the Cornwall Regional Hospital to get tested again, to check out what was happening, the doctor now informed me that this wasn't a cold. It was sinus you had. I never had sinus problem. To today, I have this sinus problem. Yes, the song says that Naaman went down into the water 7 times. It was on my 7th testing that this leper became healed. 7 testing. So you could see where I had to hang my clothes in the bathroom. And I tried to put myself together every day. I tried to dress up, they would laugh after me and so forth. But one of the things I recognized that persons around me where I wasn't doing well. Persons were threatening to jump from the windows. And I saw persons who kept getting back tests like myself that were still positive, but they weren't taking it well. I strongly believe that because of a Christian personality, I stick to it. I continue singing. I did Zooms. I was teaching. I tried to do every little thing that I could do just to keep a mental health. And where the view from where I was, I could stand and see a bird filled with trees. A tree filled with birds, and you look at that sunset in the afternoon. Those are the things that kept you sane. Talking to your family, FaceTiming with them made a difference. Yes, I had missed my husband. Yes, I had missed my family. Yes, I had missed my children. But because of friends and family who kept calling, and the staff became worried. They became so worried after a while, and they recognized that everybody was going home except Lisa. Every night you would look and you would see a bus come 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning to pick up persons to carry them home. Your heart will be broken because you're wondering, how long will this thing last? I just want to tell you that nothing lasts forever. Today I can say I give God thanks that I have gone through this and I'm able to speak about it. I've taken my first vaccine and I'm still wondering and looking and wondering what next. I don't know what next, but I can tell us that strangers, family, friends, prayer, and singing made a difference in my mental health. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Simpson, for sharing a little bit of what you went through and how you were able to cope. And if we were looking at some of the coping strategies already stated, we would have known that you were employing them, even though you didn't know the exact term, but you were certainly trying to be the survivor that you really are. I move quickly on to our final presenter, Mrs. Cecile Minot. Mrs. Minot is head of the Caribbean Child Development Center and director of the Consortium for Social Development and Research at the UWI Open Campus. She has over 30 years of experience in counseling and providing training for counselors. She's also a member of the psychosocial unit of the UWI COVID-19 task force, offering counseling services to staff and students of the UWI. She will be sharing on the mental and emotional effect of COVID-19 on individuals with a focus on coping methods for fear, anxiety, grief, and loss. Over to you, Mrs. Minot.
My apologies, I thought I had unmute myself. May I say all protocols observed? Good evening, everyone. My colleagues before me has spoken quite a bit, and some of what I will be saying will reinforce what they've all said. It will also bring to light some of the things that my previous presenter just spoke about. But I'm going to try this evening to talk to you about it. So this evening, I'd like to talk to you about the impact of COVID-19 on the pandemic. And I'm going to be looking at adults as well as children, because sometimes we have a tendency to forget the children. And I think it is important for us to recognize that our children are also going through a lot mentally. How COVID-19 affects us, and discuss again some of the coping strategies and self-care tips, which some have been mentioned before. So when we look at what are the effects of COVID-19, now it has had a major effect on all of our lives, as we have heard before. Many of us are facing challenges that can be very stressful, overwhelming, can cause strong emotions, both in adults and in children. We have had to manage all the public health actions, such as our social distancing that was mentioned before, wearing the mask constantly. And all of these are very necessary to reduce the COVID-19 spread. However, these same measures can also make us feel isolated, lonely, and can increase our stress, our fear, and our anxiety. So as we look at children and adults, you can see that children, it does affect them. They do worry. They do develop anxiety, and fear is very real for our children. Our adults will go through the grieving process, and I'll just share a little bit on that. Adults feel isolated, especially from your colleagues at work, because as mentioned before, you're working from home now. When do I see my colleagues? When do I have that camaraderie of sharing? Loss of income. Some of us have lost jobs. Some of us have reduced hours. Our partners have lost their jobs. And so you find that we have a loss of income. So now we're looking at the economics of what is happening, affecting us. And that does take a strain on our mental health. Once again, we have to look at that fear. So when we look at our children, and I wanted to start with the children, but when we look at our children and what they're experiencing, we have three questions that we have to ask. First and foremost, what are our children experiencing during COVID-19? What are some of the things that we see? As they're looking at the global pandemic and worrying about what is happening, they are feeling that big change in the schedule. They're feeling what their parents are going through. They're feeling the move from normal life. They're at home. They're using the computer. They're homeschooling. They're feeling that change on themselves. They're hearing their parents. They're hearing trusty adults speak. They're hearing everybody expressing alarm and worrying themselves, that has an impact on them. How does it impact them? Well, a couple of ways are, you'll see the stress show itself in their behavior. They'll begin to act out, or they'll hold their feelings inside. They will begin to express fear in the form of anger or arguments. You'll notice that your child is constantly arguing, or they just are not comfortable, or they'll just withdraw into a room. They do have a change in sleeping problems. They can't sleep, they'll toss, they'll turn. They'll want to stay more in a room with you rather than in their own room or be beside you at all times. You will notice a change in their eating habits. And sometimes this can lead to stomach aches and headaches, and we need to be mindful of that. If your child comes to you about a stomach ache or a headache, it might not be something physical. Check it out first if it's physical, but it might very well be what is happening with all of us with the pandemic. Tears. Our children, you'll just see the tears come easily for no reason, and we all wonder, why are you crying? But that's the built up emotion that's on the inside. Same thing that happens to us. Now, what do they need? How can we help our children? But what I did was I pulled from online, and Dr. Stephen O'Brien, he looked at anxiety in children during this COVID crisis, and he divided it into 4 ways that we can actually help our children, the strategies to create calm and build some resilience. The first category looks at managing the mood. Try and help your children focus on staying calm. Now, while you help your children stay calm, remember, you too have to stay calm. So you have to count to 100 before you approach them. Make sure that you are in a calm space before you approach them. By counting, it helps you to calm down as well. Help your child to cope in a healthy way. You've spoken, my colleagues have spoken about nutrition. They've spoken about things that you do together. This is a way for you to do it with your children as well. Play games, be active, draw. As my previous colleague spoke about the fact that she now has a sewing machine. You're managing your children and yourself. You're managing your mood. You're managing what's taking place with this whole pandemic. Listen to music. A lot of us are music fans. Put on some calming music. Listen to it. And try and give your child control of different things. Let your child have a sense that they're in control. It helps them to manage their mood. You can choose 1 chore out of 3 and just ask them to complete. Now, this will depend on the age of your child, because remember, little children, you can ask them to help sweep up, but the older they get, it's a more difficult a chore you can give them. Maintain a consistent routine. This is very important. Regular bedtimes. Turn off all devices before. Let them read before bedtime. That will calm them down. Create a daily schedule for your child that helps to alleviate some of that fear and for some of that stress. It also alleviates some of yours, because it's creating some normalcy back into the home when you try to develop a schedule. Prepare everyday meals. Make sure that, as my colleague said before, make sure that you prepare nutritious meals for them, so that will also help. Connect, very important. Spend time together as a family. COVID has brought that home to all of us, where we're able now to spend more time with each other, but make sure that it's quality time. Play games, as we said before, and also with the sewing machine, because it helps the family to connect together and stay connected and share. Help your child chat virtually with their friends and family. Remember, they're online with school now. You have to be helping them, showing them what to do. Some of us, our children are showing us, but that's fine. At least you're doing it together. Play games together. We can also grow as we move along. Do something new and different with your children, with the family. Create some form of indoor game if you're not allowed to go outside, and create a warm, loving environment at all times. Try and use calm voices and share kind words. So before you say something, knowing what you're going through, your child is going through the same thing. So you just have to try and ensure that you maintain their calmness and your calmness, because it is a lot worse when everybody in the house is going a little crazy, in my terms. So now that I've shared some stuff with you on children, I just wanted, this is from the US. Unfortunately, we don't have any of the statistics yet, but we're working on it. So from between January 6th and 18 this year, a study was done by the US Census Bureau just to look at anxiety and depression in adults 18 and over. And what they notice is that these adults have symptoms of anxiety or a depressive disorder, that it usually occurs more than half the days or nearly every single day. Now, this is since COVID, and I'm sure a lot of us here can relate on it. So this is just reinforcing some of what my colleagues have said before. As COVID come on, because the pandemic is here with us, it's been with us for over a year, but it continues to bring on the fear, the anxiety, the stress, the grief, and the depression, because it is here and it is how we have to try and move forward with it. What I have tried to do is try to take you through some of these, to give you some pointers as to how you can identify if you're even, if you're getting anxious or if stress is on. And then at the end, I'll share some tips as my colleagues did. But I wanted to try and have you look at, how do I know if I'm anxious? How do I know if I'm stressed? Because all of these things put together can lead to depression. So fear is an instant psychosocial, I'm sorry, I've now gone. Anyway, it is that immediate response to an imminent threat. So for us with COVID-19, it is the fact that it is here, we all see it as a threat. And because we see it as a threat, we become fearful of it. Sometimes by educating, by spreading the word, which our government and the WHO, as well as the CDC in the US, have been trying very hard to educate us all on what COVID-19 is and how to cope with it and how to move forward. But the fear is still there because it's the fear of the unknown. People try to manage their fears by totally isolating yourself from the outside world, or you engage in obsessive cleaning, what we call obsessive compulsive behavior, or you try and protect yourself from everything. And we have to be careful of that, because once we find ourselves moving into that direction, with those behaviors, what will happen next is that we can pretty much begin to see that something isn't right, and maybe I need to get this checked out. So fear is one of the things that I want you to be, it's with us. Whenever we have fear, whenever anything comes at us, we always have a tendency to immediately try and protect ourselves. And so by withdrawing and isolating ourselves, sometimes it can make it worse. So we need to be mindful of that. Anxiety. As I said before, anxiety is in the adult as well as the children. Sometimes we feel very nervous. Now, we all know that, as our first colleague spoke about, that there is good anxiety, nervousness, like we come in to do this presentation and we're all very anxious, but at the same time, we are happy that we're doing this because we're able to share some of the information that we have. And so you become restless and tense. But you know that you have a sense that there is danger in the room and danger around you. And you will notice that your heart will there'll be an increase in your heart rate. You'll start to breathe rapidly, sweat, trembling. All these things are coming at you all at once. And this is where the deep breathing exercise that my colleagues have mentioned to you come in. The main key when you feel anxious is that you have to begin to calm yourself down. And I'll tell you some more about that, but I wanted to mention that my colleagues, what they've said, this is the time for you to try some of this. Stress. I think we are all feeling stress. The work has the online meetings, the online Zooms, the constant trying to keep up on things, constantly working with children or family or work, stress comes on. But what exactly is stress? Well, stress is when you have feelings of all of this. You have the fear, the anger, the sadness, the worry, the numbness, or frustration. You just have all these feelings coming to you at once, and you begin to wonder what's happening. You have a change in appetite. Your energy is lower. Your desires are lower, and your interest is much lower as well. You have difficulty concentrating and making decisions, difficulty sleeping, or you're having nightmares. Some of our physical reaction, once again, is the headaches, the body pains, stomach problems. Some people have skin rashes or other migraines. All these things are a form of stress. A colleague of mine who hadn't suffered from migraines in a long time, COVID brought back migraines, and then she's wondering why. And as she did her deduction, she recognized that it's how she's been handling things that it has come back, because her migraine was triggered by stress. Some of us it's triggered by other things. You might also notice that you begin to increase use in tobacco, alcohol, or any other substance. So something that you never did before, you're increasing that use. You need to be careful of it and mindful that there might be question mark. Am I having stress? Is something not right with my body? How can I get help for that? Now, there are two types of stress, and I wanted to make this clear, because there is the positive stress and the negative stress. Positive stress is when you know that this is your final exam, you're almost finished, and yay, it's all done. But then there's negative stress. But stress comes on, and it all depends on how you perceive it. So you have a stressor, and you see a perceived threat. And at the same time, it's how you think that you can cope with it. So if you believe that you can manage this stress, then it's a positive stress. But if you believe that you're not able to manage it, then it becomes a negative stress response. My colleague who was in isolation for 60 days, she managed her stress because she looked at it thinking, I can manage this. She used everything around her to manage it and have been able to manage it. She also made note of other persons who were in the same situation, who really just didn't believe that they could manage it. And so to them, the stress was this situation was just too great. And so it became a negative stressor. As you think about things, begin to ask yourself, is this a stressor? Is this a threat? Is this a stressor that I can manage? And if I believe that I can manage it, then I will deal with it. Put that positiveness in your thought and see how it works. Same thing with COVID. Look at the whole COVID situation and say, can I manage this? And if you can manage it, try. If not, get help to help you manage it. This is something that we're all experiencing right now. I think there, as our first speaker spoke, there is a lot of colleagues and friends that we have lost to COVID-19. And so some of us are still going through the stages. We're still in shock, disbelief, and denial. We're anxious, we're distressed. All of these, we have our sadness that come to us, our loss of sleep and loss of appetite. It is a period that you go through whenever you lose something, you lose someone, or if you lost any loss that you have suffered, these are reactions that you have, and you do go through them. So in a way, these are normal reaction to the grief that you're feeling, and it's how you deal with it that makes a difference. You have to accept it and then try and move through the stages. And I just put depression in there because if you're not able to manage your anxiety, not able to try and bring yourself out, depression is something that will come about. And depression can lead to thoughts of suicide. And so we need to be mindful of this, not just for ourselves, but for anyone who's around us as we go through COVID-19. There is a lot of persons who are moving into this direction because we're not able to cope. And so if you know someone who have just lost interest in everything, feeling tired very easily, mention something to you to say, boy, I just don't want to be here anymore. It means that they're now in that mode of depression, and we need to be able to get them. Some person, as it's not sleeping through the night at all. We just need to be mindful. So I wanted to bring these to your attention to say that as we look at COVID-19 and what is happening, these are some of the things that we are feeling and that we're going through, and we need to be mindful of it. Now, how do we cope with some of these things? Well, my colleagues have mentioned some, but before you can do anything else, you need to first of all identify what is triggering, what is creating what you're seeing. What is it? Is it work? Is it working from home? Is it something in my home? Is it something with someone? Is it the COVID? What exactly is triggering what I'm feeling? Once you find that out, then you're able now to say, okay, how can I deal with this? You can learn different ways of thinking. As I said to you before about that stress, if you believe that you can help yourself and that you can move that stressor away, then you're able to do it. But seek help if you need it, because our thoughts are very important. Our mind is a very, very powerful thing. And if we can speak to ourselves and tell ourselves, I can do this, we're able to move towards it. And we have that in my speaker before me, who spoke about the way she managed herself in isolation. And that was a lot of positive thoughts. And so I'm very, very happy to hear that that's how it went down. Try to change those negative thoughts before they spiral out of control, and connect with other people. That's how we just have to maintain that connection with persons that you know. Create memories or rituals, there are a lot of things that we can do. We have to continue to create those memories and those rituals that we do with each other in the family. And don't forget, most importantly, ask for help. If you are not coping, if you are not able to move to the next level, ask for help. People are out there who will help you. We have a lot of psychologists, psychiatrists, and counselors who are available to talk to you, to give everybody help, and we just need to be able to do that. And finally, last but not least, just going through general self-care. And I know my colleagues have spoken about this before. We have the physical, mental, and emotional exercise. You can walk, you can run, change in your diet, remember nutrition. For mentally, read a book, turn off your phone, turn off the news. My colleagues have spoken about that before. Meditate, journal. Journaling is a good way of writing down what is happening and what's going on with you. Yoga and the deep breathing exercise that was spoken about earlier. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Over to
Thank
you.
you, thank you. Thank you so much, Cecile. That was indeed very informative. I want to pause to thank all our presenters for tonight. It has been a very, informative and thought-provoking session that we have had, information that I'm sure our viewers will take away with them. We do have a little space for a few questions, but before I ask the colleague in YouTube and Facebook if there are any questions, I would want to ask from you, Cecile, is there some sort of an indication when stress move towards depression? Is there something that we could look at? We all know we are in stress. Very stressful situation is this COVID. But is there anything that we can say, okay, then maybe we have turned the corner into depression?
The thing about it is that you have to be aware of your behavior. And yes, you as individuals, we know how stressful we get to a point. And the thing about it is that if you find that you are now just not focusing on things the way how you used to focus, you've become a lot quieter. In other words, your behavior has gone to the extreme of what it used to be. It's time to seek help. Whether it is that you've moved into full depression or it is that you're on your way there, it's time to get help. So you always have to be mindful of your own behavior and how you normally manage things. And if you notice that it's just moving in another direction and you're like, no, this is not normal for me, then it's time to get help. It's time to talk to someone and say, there's some of these things happening. What exactly? Because maybe you haven't reached depression yet, but you could be on your way to depression. I hope that helped.
Thank you. Yes, it does. And another question is to Dr. White, who near the middle or ending of his presentation, he spoke on the frontline workers and some tips on how to manage during this time. And so Dr. White, Are we seeing the manifestation of stress and depression with frontline workers, and how have they been able to cope and manage this far?
Yeah, very good question. Very interesting question. Yes, we are seeing the manifestation of what we call this COVID burnout among our frontline workers, and especially the persons who I supervise in law enforcement. We're seeing this because the fact is they have to be on the front line. There is uncertainty. There is limited resources as far as protection is concerned, and yet they are still expected to carry out the same measure of activities, if not more. And so what we have to be doing is to be putting in measures in place in order to support them as they are in this kind of uncertainty. As I said before, we had a member who just died just on Monday from COVID. He was admitted on Sunday night, and then by Monday he's dead, and his family is just devastated because he was on the front line, and so there is this COVID burnout, but we have to provide the necessary psychosocial support to them, reassuring them, increasing their level of resilience, because it's just part and parcel of what we do. We're expected to be on the front lines, but we just have to put the necessary support in place.
Thank you. And we have a question in our chat. When feelings have deteriorated into full-blown depression, what are the treatment steps, and roughly how long till there is recovery? This is Minot.
So I'll start with the latter part. How long? It all depends on the therapy. It all depends on the individual and the therapist as to how long this will take. Time is not important to us as long as we are helping the individual. The question was, what are the treatment steps? Well, first and foremost, it's working with the therapist to ensure that we see what is going on with you, identify everything that's taking place, and basically try and find the root cause. What is bringing this on? And then when you find the root cause, then you're able now to put coping skills in place, coping strategies in place in order to help that person. But there's no time. With therapy, we don't put a time bound on it. It's as long as the client feels that they're able to cope on their own. And that's when I would say we also will gradually allow the client to move, so that way, it's a gradual process. It's not just, okay, I'm done with you, bye-bye. No. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And another question for Dr. Lamley. Joan, as a naturopathic doctor, is there any sort of remedy or some sort of specific, I won't say concoction, but putting together certain foods that will help a person recover from COVID-19 quickly, having contracted COVID-19?
Yes, there are things that we do to help persons. All right. There are things that we do to help persons when they have COVID. As a matter of fact, you call it concussion, for want of a better word. And yes, we have been using it and getting very good results with it also. Because one of the things that is compromised during then, as our survivor had said, the immune system is compromised. All right. And it is not, a lot of time persons concentrate on doing one thing. So they look at, say, you get something to take and that's it. No, it is a lifestyle. The immune system is built by lifestyle. So even the very time when you go to bed is very important. When you're sick, that is the time when food is not even important at that time. So you're going to just concentrate on those things that are used for building the system. All right, so we move away from the food eating and we concentrate more on other health habits. And there are things that we put together that we have been using worldwide. You'll be amazed to know how far this has extended. Persons have called, we work with other persons because I'm part of a medical missionary group. And what we do, we have been studying disease a long time and we use natural things. And we have been able, many persons, especially when New York had its breakout, we had persons who make these things and just drop it at the door for persons and they will just come and pick them up and use them. And we have had 100% success rate. None of those
giving
persons.
us a hint, Dr. Lamley.
Okay. All right. So let me tell you some of the things that we put together that we all tell persons have these at home. Your immune system is compromised because of lack of vitamin D. And it's amazing that we have so much sunlight, but we don't use it. We don't go outside. We don't utilize the sun. So what we have to do, we have to give person vitamin D3 drops. All right, and we give them mega doses of that. And then there is a product that's called oregano oil, food grade. Now this is really harsh, but actually it's excellent for helping to kill virus in the system, and also for helping with your lung, moving flames from the lung. So we use that also. We also use the turmeric, and I'm so glad that the hospital, I saw a few days ago that KPH was now using turmeric. And I said, hallelujah, we have been advocating for this a long time. You understand? So now that I heard that turmeric is excellent for inflammation in the human body. So we put together the turmeric and we use onion with the garlic and ginger with some honey, all right, to help it to move along. And we use a high dosage of lemon juice with it, all right? And we'll combine them, blend them. For those who are in the colder areas, then we make it into a soup form and we will give it to them. And these have been helpful, very helpful, all right? Along with lifestyle changes, of course.
Dr. Lamley, there is Dr. Severin. You have a question? Can you go ahead, please?
You want me to ask, yeah, the question, voice the question. Yes, I have it in the chat, Dr. Lamley, and thank you, colleagues, for these excellent presentations. I mean, really, really interesting. I mean, I'm very happy that I'm here, and they have been presented in accessible in style, so that we all understand them as lay people, and I'm grateful for that. But my particular question, Dr. Lamley, I hear a lot about echinacea. Echinacea, I've been hearing, well, in fact, the first place I heard about it was in Jamaica. The executive secretary of my former boss, had said to me, echinacea, you must take echinacea. And I'm wondering, because I've taken it a lot in capsules, I go to the pharmacy and so on. I'm wondering what foods or combination of foods that I can get the health benefits of echinacea.
Well, echinacea is not in food. It is a herb. It is a herb. So
well,
you're right. So it is a
herb.
herb. It is a herb by the name of echinacea. Well, you call it echinacea. For us, it's echinacea, and we spell it like echinacea. All right. So we use that. It is actually very good for building the immune system and for any kind of bronchial problem that you have, any kind of respiratory health. So say a person, well, say for now, like what is happening, would have combined the echinacea with the golden seal and something that's called mullein and elderberry. So would have made a kind of, I'm going back to my sister word of saying concussion. All right. So would have used this in very concentrated form and help for the bronchial problem that is going on. And it worked. But can I say this? Most of the drugs that you would have used, right, the medications that you would have used, they're extract from herbs. They're extract from herbs. Only that they have been extracted. But I always say, no, you know, what God has put together, let no man put asunder. When you use the herbs as they are, they have a more beneficial, they are more beneficial to the system in the sense that they don't work in isolation. Herbs do not work in isolation. They seek to heal the entire body. So that is why we get such very good success when we combine these herbs together.
But well, what I should have asked then, because yes, it's a herb. What I should have asked, in the absence of getting that herb, so the health benefits of this, what food substitutes? In other words, readily available food substitutes. For instance, if you told me grapefruit, if you told me tomato, and so on, then I could go to the supermarket and get those things and feel that I'm getting the benefit of echinacea. That's my point, really.
Okay. All right. Okay. So now I understand what you're saying. What I would say to you, you have to use the food in conjunction with the herb. So if you cannot get echinacea, then what I could tell you, what are the other herbs that you could substitute? All right. So you'd still have to use the food, because especially if you're having a condition that you're treating. So if you can't get echinacea, then you could go to your golden seal, you can go to your mullein, you can go to your elderberry or your horseradish. Basically, those would have for respiratory illness, you can go along that line. So when you're taking that, what you want to do now is ensure that you're having a high dose of vitamin C. So that is where now you're going to be boosting yourself with your oranges and your grape. Once you're having any kind of respiratory problem, be it COVID or other kind of, as long as it's respiratory, just remember high doses of vitamin C. It is better to take them in food because the body, it is more bioavailable to the body than if you have taken them in supplements. But in the case of emergency, you know, you go to high dosage of the supplement, all right, because you're having an emergency. So there's one that is called, do you know that one of the highest form of vitamin C known to man is a fruit that is called camu camu. C-A-M-U. Very high dosage.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Doctor.
Really, I don't wait for conditions to come on. I take them preemptively.
Yes, that's what I do. So I have my little kid. As a matter of fact, I have a little daughter, and when she was about like 7 or 8, she had learned so much that when if she feels her throat coming, you know, any little thing down there, she said, "Mommy, my throat is not feeling too well. Where's the golden seal?" And she will just go and she will help herself. And she's now 16 and she has not been sick.
Yes.
She has not been sick because she has learned as soon as something is coming on, if she's having a little upset stomach, there's something that must be in your house. This is activated charcoal. So as soon as she felt as if she might be having an upset stomach, or you know, she ate something that's not agreeing with her, she'll just say, "Oh, where's the charcoal?" And she's going and she make her little thing and she's gone and she's fine. You know, so it is better to prevent a disease than to treat it once you have it. Yes. Because sometimes some of them, they will stay, the after effect will be there. You know, but boost that immune system. The body is actually working to keep you alive. That is its job, keep you alive. So it is working, just give it a little boost and it will do its job.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lamley. Yes, the concoction that that I'm talking about. But thank you. Before we end this wonderful session, just a final word from Lisa to those persons who have contracted COVID-19, and you spoke about your experience of being stigmatized and all of that. Just a final word to those who might have be experiencing that sort of the whole issue of from once you have contracted COVID-19, there's some stigma to it. Just a final word from you, Lisa, and then we go.
Just to tell persons to recognize that you didn't give this to yourself, because I tried and did everything I think I could do to prevent catching COVID. So sometimes you don't even know how it happens, but just to say to you that just continue to trust in God and to pray and to laugh, find something to laugh about. I know it's hard to say that, but it does help the mental state of us. I remember just one last thing. I remember when I was there and I started to sing from in my room, I recognized that persons would come out to listen, and the staff would come up and ask me if I could do it more. So every day I would get up and just sing a song, and persons would just come out and listen. As soon as I'm finished, they go back in. It doesn't matter how small we think things are. Just give up our best and God will do the rest.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Just find something to laugh at. That is where we end this wonderful evening, but we are not ending as is. We thank all the panelists and our viewers and our guests in Zoom, Dr. Severin and Mrs. Patterson, but I'm not the one moving the vote of thanks. And so I'd just like to introduce Dr. Dolores Smith, who will be moving the vote of thanks. She's an educator, a senior management consultant, and a chartered accountant. So this evening, she acts as the past president and member of the Lions Club of New Kingston. So over to you, Dr. Dolores Smith.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening. It is my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks. On behalf of the UA Open Campus and the Lions Club of New Kingston, I take this opportunity to propose vote of thanks to those who have directly and indirectly contributed to the success of the webinar on maintaining your mental well-being during COVID-19. Thanks to Dr. Francis Severin, Deputy Principal, the UA Open Campus, and Mrs. Angela Patterson, President of the Lions Club of New Kingston, for their warm greetings. I, on behalf of the collaborative team, the UA Open Campus and Lions Club of New Kingston, and on my behalf, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to all panelists for participating and sharing with us today. At the outset, I thank Dr. Kevin White, Assistant Force Chaplain and Head of Area 4 Counseling Unit, Jamaica Constabulary Force, for his presentation on how to adapt to this new normal. Dr. White suggested several coping strategies, the main strategy being to focus on things I can control. Further, we're grateful to Dr. Joan Lamley, Natural Health Consultant, for her enlightening presentation on taking charge of your health and her concussion that she shared with us as well. Our sincere thanks to Mrs. Lisa Sterling Simpson, COVID-19 survivor, for sharing her experience with COVID on this forum. The point that stood out to me is Mrs. Sterling Simpson's strong Christian faith that helped her to cope with her 60 days quarantine. I also wish to express my gratitude to Mrs. Cecile Minot, Head of the Caribbean Child Development Center and Director Consortium for Social Development and Research, the UA Open Campus, as well as member of Psychosocial Unit, UA COVID-19 Task Force, for our presentation on the effects of COVID-19 pandemic on the mental health, with specific emphasis on the children, as well as adults responses to fear, anxiety, and stress related to COVID-19. A special thanks to our moderator, Ms. Levine Griffiths, for a job well done. Thanks to the organizing committee for their support and coordination. Our heartfelt thanks to the participants, Lions and Leos, for their active participation. With these warm words and a kind message, we move to end today's webinar. I want to wish you a very good evening and thank you.
Good night, good evening, everyone. Please remember our next webinar is April 22nd, in which we talk about how to cope during this time of financial crisis caused by COVID-19. So I wish you all a blessed weekend.
When it comes.
When it comes, yes, indeed. And see you on the 22nd.
All right. Have a good evening, all.
Good evening, everyone.
Everyone, have a good evening.
All right.
Have a good evening, everyone.